Coming up, we look at the security and compliance updates in SharePoint and how it's the foundation for keeping your files safe across Office 365. We're going to show you new conditional access controls to safeguard against insecure networks and devices, and new governance capabilities for site classification and unified auditing within hybrid environments. I'm joined today by Navjot Virk from the SharePoint team. Welcome.
Thank you, Jeremy. Glad to be here.
So people know SharePoint for site creation and document collaboration, among all the other things that it does, but what's its broader role in Office 365?
So SharePoint is the foundation of secure file collaboration in Office 365. It is the file store for all Office 365 apps and experiences, including Office 365 groups, Microsoft Teams, SharePoint team sites, and OneDrive for Business. And by virtue of that, all these apps and experiences inherit our security and compliance controls.
So what's behind the direction that you and the team are taking with SharePoint?
So the way we work is very different now than we used to a few years ago. We are more mobile. We work from home. We work from coffee shops. We work on our own personal devices, sometimes even kiosks at an airport. This puts the onus on SharePoint to make sure that you, the admin, have the right visibility and controls to keep your data safe while keeping your users productive on the go.
Right, and your team is really building the tools to help protect information that gets generated and stored and accessed via SharePoint. How have things evolved though in recent months?
So in the last few months, we focused on three key areas. First, to give you the right conditional access policies so you can control the level of access your users have when using insecure devices and locations. Two, giving you better visibility into how SharePoint data is consumed in your entire organization and giving you better governance controls.
So what work's been done to address these areas?
So let's start with conditional access policies. So here I am in the SharePoint Admin Center. You'll notice that there is a new tab on the left called Device Access.
Okay.
Now this page shows you all the new conditional access policies for SharePoint. So the first policy I want to show you allows you to control the level of access users will have when they're using a non-compliant or a non-domain joined device, or in other words, an unmanaged device.
It's like a home computer.
Correct. And SharePoint relies on Intune to give us the signal of whether the device is compliant or domain joined or not. And so you can use this policy to decide the level of access users can have when they're using these devices. Now, if you want, you can block all access to these devices using Intune or some other MDM solution. But that's very restrictive and does not let your users be productive at all on their personal devices. So that's why we've introduced a new policy that allows you to give limited access. And in this mode, the users can still access that content in a web browser, but they're not allowed to perform any actions that would bring the data down to this potentially insecure device. So in other words, they cannot download, print, or sync. So I've set the policy on my tenant. Why don't you show us what that looks like from the user perspective?
So now we'll move over to my computer, and you'll see that I've got both the experiences of a managed computer, and we're going to simulate what the unmanaged computer looks like. So here I'm joined on a machine that's domain joined, managed, and I've got all of these different buttons on top that you would expect to see if you're a SharePoint user, creating new files, uploading. I can even select a file, and I'll see the download button appear. All of that stuff's there for me. I'm completely unencumbered. If I click on the file itself, you'll see that when I'm in Office Online and Word Online here, even a print button shows up. So I can do all the things to create, download, print, and access those files. Now again, simulating that I'm on my home computer, first thing I'm going to see up on the top is that my organization's not going to allow me to download, print, or sync using this specific device. So I get a nice user-friendly acknowledgement as to why I can't do all the things that I'd be able to do on the other machine. So I can see here that I can still open, I can share, I can get a link to this document. And if I click on it, in this case, I can see another message here. My organization doesn't allow me to download, print, or sync it on the device. I don't have that print button that we saw in the other browser on my managed machine. And because I'm pretty computer proficient, I'm going to go ahead and try to actually work around that. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the Settings tab inside of Google Chrome, and I'm going to use that native print functionality and try to print it, and you'll see that even here I'm blocked from printing, so I just have a blank document. So that's the device. I mean, these are things that I can do there, but you also mentioned location. So what are we doing there?
Yeah. So what we just showed you was, so users are productive on their devices, but you can't accidentally bring the data down and leak it from these devices that may be insecure. Now, the second policy is in the same direction, but this policy allows you to control access based on network locations.
Okay.
So the idea here is if you want, you can restrict your users' access only from network locations that you trust. So you don't want your data to leak to potentially rogue networks, you can do that.
Right.
Now, this is a very restrictive policy, so it's probably more applicable to organizations that have regulatory requirements for high levels of network security. But so if you want to set this policy, all you have to do is enable the policy here, supply the IP ranges of the networks that you trust. You can do IPv6 or IPv4 addresses.
Okay.
And once you set the policy, it's pretty simple. The users will have access while they're on one of these secure networks, but the moment they leave the network, they lose access. When they come back, of course, the network is restored. So pretty simple.
All right, so let's see if this works. I'm going to go back to my computer, and I'm going to go back to the same team site here. Now, you'll see in my case, I've actually got MSFT Corp, our corporate network, connected. That's a permitted IP.
Correct, yes.
Now, if I connect to this MSFT Open, that's our guest network. So I'm going to go ahead and connect to that. And then at that point, I won't be part of the defined allowed IP ranges.
Yes.
So now let's say I take my computer home, I've connected to my home network or another network that I didn't trust. If I go and click on any of the files there, immediately I'm going to see that access is restricted. And it's giving me another nice message saying, due to organizational policies, you can't access those resources on the network. However, if I go back into my corporate IP address and that network, I'll be able to access what I was accessing before. So that lets me have secure connections as long as I'm on a trusted network. So how does this all, though, compare to what we can do right now from a conditional access standpoint in Azure AD?
So SharePoint conditional access policies enhance the access policies that you have in Azure. Azure conditional access policies are good for applying policies across multiple workloads. So the policies I just showed you are very specific to SharePoint and only apply to SharePoint. So I would recommend you enable both the SharePoint policies and the Azure conditional access policies in case you want to control access from multiple workloads.
Okay, so we've covered now location-based conditional access. You mentioned new data governance controls as well earlier. Let's switch gears and talk about what's new there.
So let's start with classification. You can now apply custom classification tags to SharePoint team sites and groups. You can use these tags to help educate your users about how to use the content and share the content that is stored in a team site. You can create these tags using PowerShell in Azure AD, and you can specify the names of the tags, the description of the tag, and even the order in which the tags show up in the team site creation and group creation experience. So why don't you create a new team site, and let's see what this looks like.
Okay, will do. So I'm back on my PC. I'm in the managed and logged in environment. So I'm going to go ahead and create a site using the normal path that I would usually use. I'm going to go ahead and call this one Mechanics. And I can see that name's available. And I also see my different settings. So I'm going to set this one, in my case, to private. And then I'm going to look at the site classification. Now, this is what you're referring to here. We're going to go ahead and make that confidential. Maybe we're going to start building some new shows for Mechanics that are about products that we haven't released yet. So we'll go ahead and click Next. Now I can assign people in the group. So I'm going to give you ownership of the group, Navjot. And I will also assign another member here, Carissa, and click Finish.
So yeah, and what happens is every team site has a group, and every group is associated with a team site. So when you apply one of these tags to a team site, it automatically also shows up for the group and vice versa.
Right, so we see that here then, Mechanics, private group, and it's already got that classification confidential on that. That means that I don't want to share this out to external users, for example, because this is a confidential site. Now the nice thing is here, it also happens to work across the other experiences in Office 365. Now, it takes a moment for that to happen, and I just did this here. So I'm going to go over to a previous group that I've created called Project Redstone. Now that private group also has the confidential tag assigned to it. I did that in the same way, and it's assigned those classifications.
And if you like, you can programmatically assign additional SharePoint security policies to these classification tags. And in future, you'll be able to do that automatically. When you create a tag, you'll be able to specify some security policies to go with that.
And all these controls apply to things beyond just the sites that we're doing. Maybe I'm going to be using things under the covers with SharePoint like teams or groups.
Yeah.
And just to illustrate that even further, here I'm in Microsoft Teams. Now what not a lot of people know is that Microsoft Teams are using SharePoint document libraries to store all the files for the group chat that happens, and OneDrive for Business for the one-on-one chat. So here you can see I've already got a chat going with the team here for Project Redstone. I've uploaded a doc, projectredstone.docx. You'll be able to audit all this through SharePoint, right?
Yes, absolutely. And because SharePoint is the file store for teams and groups and other experiences, you can audit all file activity across all of these experiences in Office 365.
All right.
So here I am in Audit Log Search in Office 365 Security and Compliance Center. So let's search for this document that you just added to your Teams conversation. So it's called Project Redstone. So I'm going to search for that. And let's restrict our search to see the last time this document was uploaded. So here I am. I'm going to search for anything related to Project Redstone which was uploaded in the last few days. So right here, you can see projectredstone.docx, which was uploaded by Jeremy. And this was part of the Teams conversation, but it shows up right here. And that's the point. You should be able to audit all file activity that's happening across all Office 365 apps and experiences because they're all powered by SharePoint.
So does this extend then to on-premises SharePoint as well?
Oh yeah, we've just introduced unified auditing across SharePoint Online and SharePoint on-premises servers for our hybrid customers so that the admin can go to one place to find all file activity across the entire organization. So right here, what I'm going to do now is let's search for all the files that were deleted in the last few days. So I don't want to look for uploaded anymore. I'm just going to pick for all the files that were deleted in the last few days across my entire organization. So here you will see that I have results for files that were deleted in SharePoint Online and also files that were deleted on premises. And one of the ways to tell that is by just looking at the username. For SharePoint Online activities, you will see the username in the format of username @Contoso2016, whereas for all the activity that has happened on premises, you will see usernames by Contoso/username. So you can tell I'm seeing all activity that is happening across my entire organization, including all Office 365 experiences and apps and on-premises SharePoint.
Right. We've also done a lot of work around data retention in Office 365 that's taking advantage of classifications. Now, these are things like sensitive information types, using document fingerprinting, all the stuff that's predefined by industry. So, for example, healthcare and financial services are also predefined.
Yes, absolutely. You can now apply retention either based on custom tags you create or based on fingerprints, which just looks for patterns in files.
We recently had Kamal Janardhan on the show to film something around advanced data governance that you'd want to check out to see more. So it's really great seeing all the updates for SharePoint across security and compliance, but what's next?
So in the coming year, we're going to focus on continuing to provide you more security controls and access policies, but we're also going to focus on making the access policies more granular. So you can apply them at team site level versus the entire tenancy. And I just mentioned this before, we're also going to extend classification so you can apply automatic SharePoint security policies to certain classification tags. And of course, we're going to continue to focus on better integration with teams and groups experiences.
So where can I go to find more information to get started?
So today we've only touched on some aspects of security in SharePoint and OneDrive. There is obviously a lot more, including things like data center security, compliance, and privacy. So please check out our detailed security and compliance white paper at the link below to learn more.
And when can I start using some of the controls that we've seen today?
You can start using auditing and classification right now, and conditional access policies are in preview.
A lot of exciting capabilities. Thanks for joining us today. And of course, keep watching Microsoft Mechanics as the technology continues to evolve, and we'll be bringing you all the updates. Thanks for watching, and goodbye for now.